You think blessings are just money, marriage, or fame? No, darling. Blessings are not what the world gives you. They're what the universe protects you from. If you've ever been broken, lonely, and still kept your head high, this one's for you. You survived things meant to destroy you. That line alone holds more power than you realize. Because truth is, life has already thrown storms at you that were meant to drown you, and yet, here you are, breathing, standing, still holding yourself together when you had every reason to fall apart. That's not weakness, that's divine strength. You didn't just survive, you transformed pain into power. You were not saved by luck, you were shaped by purpose. Think about those nights when your pillow became your secret diary, soaked with tears that nobody ever saw. You wiped them away and still showed up the next morning like nothing happened. You smiled at people who didn't even know your world was breaking behind that smile. That's what makes you rare. People saw the glow, but they never saw the fight it took to shine again. The truth is, pain tried to rewrite your story, but you picked up the pen and wrote your own ending anyway. There were people you loved who turned their backs on you when you needed them the most. You thought they were your forever, but they walked away mid-story. At that moment, you felt like everything was over, like your heart couldn't take another hit. But look at you now. You didn't just survive heartbreak, you learned to love yourself louder. You stopped begging for closure and became your own peace. You stopped chasing love and started chasing growth. That's survival at its finest. Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Remember that one time you failed? Maybe it was an exam you studied your heart out for, or a business that didn't take off, or a dream that didn't go as planned. People whispered that you were done. But failure was never your end. It was your teacher. You learned that rejection was just redirection. That when one door closes, it's because a bigger one is being built for you. You learned that sometimes God will let you fall just to show you that you can rise, because survival isn't just about breathing, it's about becoming or through the pain. You faced moments when your own mind became your biggest battlefield. Anxiety tried to convince you that you weren't enough, that you couldn't handle it, that you were too broken to heal. But here's the thing, you didn't listen. You kept fighting those invisible wars inside you. You woke up and faced the day even when your soul was tired. You smiled through panic, worked through fear, and built yourself through chaos. That's what real survival looks like, when no one claps for you, yet you keep going anyway. Think about financial struggles, when your wallet was empty but your dreams were full, when you looked at bills and wondered how you'd make it through the month, yet somehow you did. You became resourceful, stronger, smarter. You learned that money doesn't define your worth, resilience does. You realized that you could live with less and still have peace. And the way you walk through scarcity with dignity, that's not luck, that's a blessing wearing your face. And let's talk about betrayal. The kind that burns deeper than any wound. The moment you found out someone you trusted lied to you, used you, or broke your faith, it hurt because you gave them pure love and they gave you lessons instead. But that pain didn't destroy you. It refined you. You learned discernment. You learned to read silence better than words. You stopped explaining your worth to people who couldn't recognize gold even when they held it. And you realized that every time someone left, it only made space for your elevation. Even when the world doubted you, you didn't. Remember when they said, "She can't do it," and you did it anyway? That's survival. You turned their doubt into your determination. You walked through judgment, criticism, gossip, and used it all as fuel. You learned that people only throw stones at things that shine. So instead of dimming, you burned brighter. You showed them that the woman they counted out became the woman they couldn't count against. There were times when you carried pain silently because you didn't want to burden anyone. You showed strength not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. You became your own healer. You held your broken pieces together until they became art. You didn't wait for someone to save you. You saved yourself. That's survival. That's power. That's grace. And maybe you're still in the process. Maybe your storm hasn't fully passed. That's okay. Because even in the middle of the chaos, you're still here, still fighting, still rising. That's proof enough that the fire didn't destroy you. It forged you. You walked through things that others didn't survive. You overcame heartbreaks, failures, betrayals, loneliness, financial struggle, and self-doubt. And somehow, you're still standing, wiser, softer, stronger. You're not the same person you were before, you're better. So when people look at you and wonder how you carry yourself with so much confidence, tell them, because I've already met rock bottom and it taught me how to build from dust. You survive things that were designed to break your soul, and that makes you unstoppable. Every scar you have is not a reminder of pain, but a reminder that nothing, no person, no failure, no heartbreak had the power to end you. You're living proof that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet whisper that says, I'm still here. You still choose love over bitterness. That right there is a form of power that very few people understand. It takes nothing to become cold after being hurt. It takes nothing to build walls and say, I'll never trust again. But it takes everything, every ounce of strength, courage, and grace to look at the world that wounded you and still say, I choose love. But that's not weakness, that's emotional royalty. That's what separates a broken heart from a beautiful soul. Think about it. Everyone faces betrayal. Maybe it was a friend who used you, a partner who lied to you, or a family member who made you feel invisible. The easiest reaction is bitterness, to close off, to swear you'll never let anyone close again. But you didn't. You allowed yourself to feel, to heal, and to love again. That doesn't mean you forgot what they did. It means you decided their actions won't define your heart. You didn't let their darkness dim your light. And that, my dear, is grace under fire. When life threw you disappointment after disappointment, you could have become cynical. You could have said, love isn't real, people are selfish, I'm done caring. And yet, you didn't. You still believed in good hearts. You still believed in giving. You still showed kindness to strangers, smiled at people even when yours was fake, and checked in on others when no one checked on you. That's love, pure, unfiltered love, the kind the world can't corrupt. There's a woman who's been cheated on, lied to, made to feel like she wasn't enough, but when she sees someone else in pain, she still says, I hope you find peace. That's love over bitterness. Because bitterness wants revenge, but love seeks release. You learned that revenge doesn't heal, it only keeps you chained to what broke you. But forgiveness, that's what sets you free. It's not for them, it's for you. It's saying, I refuse to let what they did poison what I can become. You've been misunderstood, your silence taken as weakness, your kindness taken for granted. But instead of letting that harden you, you just became wiser. You learned to set boundaries without hate. You learned that love doesn't mean giving people access, it means wishing them well from a distance. You realize that sometimes love is not holding on, it's letting go with peace in your heart. That's maturity, that's growth, that's what makes you blessed. Think of the times when you wanted to snap, to scream, to get even, but you chose silence instead. Not because you were scared, but because you've outgrown drama. You chose your peace over proving your point. That's love. Love for yourself. Because love isn't just about how you treat others, it's also how you treat you. You realize that bitterness drains your energy, while love refuels your soul. You stopped asking, why did they do this to me? And started saying, what is this trying to teach me? That shift, that is divine evolution. You've seen people turn cold after pain. They walk around guarded, mistrusting, suspicious of every smile. But you still find beauty in small things, you still dance when your song plays, still laugh when something's funny, still give compliments to strangers. That's love in its purest form. The world tried to make you hard, but you stayed human. You stayed warm. That is rare. You know how incredible it is to still believe in love after heartbreak. That's like standing in a battlefield with wounds and still choosing to plant flowers. Because love is not just romance. It's the energy that fuels everything beautiful in life. It's how you treat others, how you speak to yourself, how you see the world. When you choose love, you're telling the universe, no matter how dark it gets, I'll be the light. Look at mothers who forgive children that hurt them, friends who help the same people who once betrayed them, lovers who wish happiness for the one who left. That's not foolishness. That's divine courage. Because it's easy to love when everything's good. The real test is when everything hurts. Can you still be kind? Can you still believe in love when life gives you reasons not to? And you did. You kept your heart open. You kept believing in goodness even after you saw evil. You didn't let trauma turn you toxic. Maybe you've been in situations where you had to walk away from people you loved deeply, not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself. And that's still love, the most powerful kind. Choosing peace over chaos, respect over attachment, that's love too. You didn't choose bitterness, you chose healing. You didn't choose hatred, you chose understanding. You didn't choose revenge, you chose release. The truth is, anyone can be bitter. Bitterness is easy, it asks for nothing. Love, on the other hand, asks for strength. It asks for emotional discipline, compassion, faith. And only the brave can choose it after pain. Only the wise know that love isn't about being naive. It's about being powerful enough not to let pain change your essence. You've been tested, hurt, disappointed, and yet you still speak gently, you still hope, you still pray for others. That's not just love, that's spiritual strength. That's the kind of energy that attracts miracles, the kind that breaks curses, heals generations, and shifts the frequency of the entire room when you walk in. Because when you still choose love over bitterness, you're not just surviving, you're leading. You're setting an example that kindness is not weakness, it's the loudest roar of strength there is. You find peace in solitude. That's not loneliness, that's mastery. When you start enjoying your own company, it means you've reached a level of emotional maturity that few people ever touch. Most people are terrified of being alone because silence forces them to face themselves. But you've learned that peace isn't found in noise, crowds, or conversations. It's found in quiet moments where your soul finally gets to breathe. There was a time when being alone scared you. You needed people to fill the silence. You needed validation to feel enough. You needed constant company to escape your own thoughts. But life taught you something powerful. That peace doesn't come from people. It comes from presence. From sitting with yourself and realizing you are whole even when nobody claps for you, nobody texts you, nobody checks in. You stopped chasing attention and started nurturing intention. You started hearing your own voice louder than the opinions of others. When you find peace in solitude, you start to notice the beauty of small things. The sound of rain, the smell of coffee in the morning, the comfort of a quiet evening with your thoughts. You begin to realize that your worth isn't measured by how many people surround you, but by how comfortable you are with your own silence. You can sit in a room by yourself and not feel lonely because you're no longer running from who you are. That's not isolation. That's evolution. There were moments when you used to fill your time just to avoid the silence. Endless scrolling, random calls, meaningless conversations, all because quiet made you uncomfortable. But then something changed. Maybe it was heartbreak, maybe betrayal, maybe disappointment, something that forced you into solitude. And at first it felt like punishment, but slowly you realized it was a gift. You started hearing your intuition clearer. You began understanding what your heart truly wanted. That's when peace arrived, softly, steadily, like a sunrise after a long storm. Think about how many people can't be alone. They constantly need someone to talk to validate them, to tell them they're okay. But when you find peace in solitude, you stop begging for reassurance. You start giving it to yourself. You start saying, I'm proud of me. I'm doing enough. I'm growing. That's when your energy shifts from seeking to attracting. Because peace attracts everything that chaos chases away. You've probably had weekends when no one called, no one invited you out, and you could have felt forgotten. But instead, you lit a candle, made your favorite drink, played your playlist, and sat with yourself, maybe journaling, maybe dreaming, maybe just breathing. And that moment right there, that's what freedom feels like. That's when you realize peace is not a place, it's a decision. A decision to stop letting external noise control your inner world. Maybe you used to fear silence because it reminded you of your pain. You didn't want to be alone with your thoughts. But as you healed, you discovered that your thoughts aren't your enemy. They're your guide. Silence started giving you answers that noise never could. You started understanding your patterns, your emotions, your triggers. You stopped depending on others to fix your peace and took responsibility for it. That's what self-awareness feels like, calm, deep, unshakable. When you find peace in solitude, you become selective. You don't crave company anymore, you crave alignment. You don't want to be around just anyone. You want energy that matches yours. You start realizing that solitude isn't loneliness, it's quality control. You're not avoiding people, you're choosing yourself. You're guarding your peace like the sacred treasure it is. Because once you've felt how good it feels to be calm, you'll never tolerate chaos again. You start spending time doing things that feed your soul. Reading, meditating, writing, walking, creating. You find joy in growth. You start realizing you can be your own best friend. You talk to yourself kindly, you keep promises to yourself, and you learn to enjoy your own rhythm. That's where true confidence is born. Not from being admired, but from being comfortable in your own skin. You're no longer afraid of outgrowing people because you know peace feels better than fitting in. Solitude teaches you strength, the kind of strength that doesn't need applause or audience. When you're alone, you learn to depend on your own energy, to motivate yourself, to comfort yourself, to rebuild yourself. You become emotionally self-sufficient. You stop being afraid of losing people because you've already found yourself. And once you've found yourself, you realize that no one else can give you peace. They can only share it if they have their own. You remember those nights when everyone left, when messages stopped coming, when life got quiet? You thought you were abandoned, but actually you were being aligned. That silence wasn't rejection, it was redirection. The universe was teaching you how to hear your own soul again. Because sometimes peace doesn't come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes disguised as solitude. And when you embraced it, you started blooming in ways you never did before. Now you wake up and don't rush to check your phone. You sit with your thoughts, maybe with tea, maybe in gratitude. You breathe deeper. You smile without reason. You've realized that life doesn't need to be loud to be beautiful. And when people ask you why you're so calm, you just smile. Because they don't know that your peace came from pain, your calm came from chaos, and your solitude came from survival. That's the thing about solitude. It teaches you what no one else can. It teaches you that you can be whole without being surrounded, that you can be fulfilled without being validated, that you can be peaceful without being distracted. You stop chasing love to fill emptiness because you've already filled it yourself. You don't need noise anymore. You've become your own melody. Your energy is too high for small minds. You've probably noticed that as you've grown, some people started to fall away. The conversations that once excited you now drain you. The environments that used to feel comfortable now feel suffocating. That's not arrogance. That's evolution. Your energy shifted. You started vibrating on a frequency that small minds can't handle. They feel your confidence as a threat. Your peace as distance, your silence as attitude. But it's none of that. It's alignment. You're no longer matching their energy. You're protecting your own. When you start thinking bigger, dreaming louder, and walking with purpose, people who live small start getting uncomfortable. You'll notice it in the subtle eye rolls, the backhanded compliments, the "you've changed" comments. Of course you've changed. That's what growth looks like. You can't shrink to make others feel tall. You can't keep dimming your light just so others aren't blinded by it. The moment you decided to rise, you outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated less. That's why you don't fit into certain places anymore. You've evolved beyond them. Think about it. Have you ever tried to explain your dreams to someone who couldn't see beyond their own limitations? They'll tell you it's impossible, unrealistic, too much. But they're not talking about your dream, they're talking about their fear. People with small minds can't see what you see because their imagination is limited to what's safe, what's known. But your energy, it's wild, visionary, limitless. You were never meant to live small, and that intimidates those who do. There's a moment in every strong woman's life when she realizes she's outgrown her circle. Not because she's better, but because her mindset expanded. She's talking about building, healing, evolving, while others are still gossiping, complaining, judging. That's when you start feeling disconnected, not because you're lonely, but because your soul is craving more meaningful energy. You're not interested in drama anymore. You want depth. You want peace. You want growth. That's what high energy attracts. Not noise, but purpose. You probably walked into a room and felt the shift, the whispers, the glances, the sudden change in tone. That's not paranoia, that's awareness. Your energy carries truth, and truth makes insecure people uncomfortable because your presence reminds them of what they've avoided: growth, accountability, authenticity. You don't even have to say a word. Your aura does the talking. It says, I've healed too much to play small again. And that's exactly why not everyone can stay around you. Let's be honest. Your energy doesn't chase, it attracts. You no longer beg people to understand you or stay in your life. You stopped explaining your worth because people who can't feel your frequency will never see your value. You learn that silence is stronger than arguing. You realize that your vibe speaks before you do. That's power. Quiet, grounded, magnetic power. And small minds, they can't stand that kind of energy because it exposes the noise they live in. Look at the way you handle conflict now. Before, you used to explain, defend, and justify yourself endlessly. Now, you just smile and walk away because you understand that not every argument deserves your fire. You save your energy for peace, not pettiness. You know that responding to every insult is like throwing pearls before swine, a waste of your shine. You realize that peace is more powerful than proving a point. That's how high your energy has become. It refuses to compete with chaos. You've also noticed that small-minded people mistake your confidence for ego. They call you too much, too direct, too proud. But they only say that because your boldness triggers their insecurities. They're comfortable around people who play small, who doubt themselves, who apologize for existing. You don't do that anymore. You've stopped apologizing for your success, your voice, your strength, your glow. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are. You've worked too hard to dim yourself for people who haven't even begun to face their own shadows. There was a time when you wanted everyone to like you, when you adjusted yourself to fit into rooms that weren't meant for your soul. But not anymore. You've learned that peace feels better than popularity. You'd rather have 5 people who understand your silence than 50% who misunderstand your purpose. You don't need validation, you need alignment. You don't need crowds, you need connection. You're not here to impress, you're here to impact. People will call you intimidating when your energy is pure, focused, and powerful. But that's not intimidation, that's presence. You carry yourself with a quiet kind of authority that doesn't need approval. Your confidence says, I know who I am. Your peace says, I know what I won't entertain. And your growth says, I've seen too much to go back. That's energy that small minds can't digest because they feed on drama while you feed on discipline. You know what's funny? The same people who used to mock you will soon admire you. Because when your energy is high, it moves mountains. You stop trying to fit in and start standing out. You walk differently. You speak differently. You stop gossiping and start growing. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop surviving and start creating. That's when people begin to notice, not because you ask them to, but because your energy demands attention without seeking it. Maybe you've lost people along the way. That's okay. Some were lessons, some were tests, and some were mirrors reflecting what you've outgrown. The truth is, high energy can't exist in low vibration spaces. When you start vibrating higher, everything not meant for you naturally falls away. You don't even have to push it. It just fades. Because light doesn't argue with darkness, it just shines. Your energy is too high for small minds because you've done the work. You've faced your pain, healed your wounds, elevated your mindset. You've learned to protect your peace, value your time, and honor your boundaries. And when you do that, you start to glow differently. Not because of makeup or filters, but because your soul is finally resting. That kind of glow can't be faked. It's the result of inner work, emotional intelligence, and spiritual maturity. All the things small minds don't understand. So when people misunderstand you, withdraw from you, or speak against you, don't lower your energy to match theirs. Stay high, stay grounded, stay focused, because the higher you rise, the smaller the noise becomes. And sometimes the distance you feel from others isn't rejection, it's elevation. You've outgrown their frequency, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So listen to me, my beautiful souls. You are not here by accident. You are here because life saw something extraordinary in you. You've carried storms in your chest and still managed to smile at the sunrise. That's not weakness, that's divine power in disguise. You have walked through hell with grace on your face and fire in your heart, and still you bloom like it never burned. That's what being a blessed woman looks like. Every scar you carry tells a story, not of pain, but of power. The power to rise, to rebuild, to recreate. Remember, queens are not born wearing crowns. They build them from the thorns life throws their way. So if people ever made you doubt your worth, let them watch, because the same woman they underestimated will be the one they can't stop admiring tomorrow. You are not defined by who hurt you, who left you, or who tried to break you. You are defined by who you became despite all that. When they threw stones, you built an empire. When they gossiped, you stayed focused. When they doubted, you showed results. That's divine energy. You don't need to prove yourself to small minds. Your silence and success will speak louder than any explanation. And let me tell you, the woman who learns to love herself in solitude becomes unstoppable, because she no longer waits for validation, attention, or approval. She becomes her own peace, her own safe place, her own home. That's the kind of strength that shakes the world without making a sound. Never apologize for being too much, too ambitious, too emotional, too passionate, too real. Because the world needs women like you. Women who dream with fire and fight with grace. Women who can break but never shatter. Women who know that beauty isn't just in a face, it's in resilience, in self-respect, in the way you carry yourself after life tried to bury you. The truth is, blessed women don't wait for miracles, they become one. Every time you rise again, every time you smile through the tears, every time you choose light when darkness calls your name. That's a miracle. That's God saying, I'm not done with you yet. So hold your head high, even when your knees shake. Walk like you're wearing invisible wings. Speak like your voice can change the world, because it can. You were never meant to blend in, you were born to stand out. The universe doesn't waste its energy creating ordinary souls. You, my dear, were crafted with intention, with meaning, with fire that can light up generations. When you walk into a room, carry your history with pride. Every pain taught you empathy. Every failure shaped your wisdom. Every rejection redirected you towards something better. You are not behind, you are being prepared. The delay is not denial, it's divine timing. So promise yourself today, no more shrinking to fit in. No more dimming your light to make others comfortable. No more explaining your worth to people who can't see your value. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to inspire those who are brave enough to rise like you. And remember this, strong women don't have attitudes, they have standards. The woman who walks alone is likely to find herself in places no one has ever been before. The fire inside you is not meant to be tamed, it's meant to be seen. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them question how you glow after everything you've been through. Because you know what they don't. You are not just surviving life, you are shaping destiny. And when a blessed woman walks in faith, even the mountains move. You've already proven that pain can't break you, loneliness can't silence you, and fear can't control you. So step into your power, own your story, and never forget, you are not just a woman, you are a force. A blessed, chosen, unstoppable force.